Ultimately goes. I mean, it's going to be a rather interesting bout of matches. I mean, we've got a lot in front of us in terms of this grand final. Both these teams have looked absolutely excellent today. We saw things starting a little bit more on the risky side for M&K, but they definitely did bring things back in a good way, like we were talking about there in the beginning of that previous matchup there for the lower finals. We were looking at Lifa looking a little bit weak there in the beginning, but certainly was able to pull things up. But folks, without further ado, it is that time. We're heading on into our grand finals matchup. Throw it away, casters. Let's see what you got.
It is that time. Grand finals just around the corner. Zephyr, we get the run back of our upper bracket finals, and it's Mahjong and Krill who come into this one with a chip on their shoulder.
A chip on their shoulder, and potentially more chips to bet on this one, because ultimately they're going to have to risk it all when it comes to what we saw coming out of that draft.
Yeah.
This is a difficult situation to be in. Your bets are deep, hard in the paint for this roster, the way they have to play, the way and the speed they have to get online to take advantage of what lies in wait against them in Deepstate and Deadlock. This is a tough start to the grand finals for them.
Yeah, I am very perplexed. We talked about the flexibility of the roster, especially for M&K, and then we started walking through that draft, and we were talking about what's good, what's not good, where we think it's headed, and then you had called it that you're just, at that point, Wraith Spanned Away and Furnace and Haze are both taken. They're both let through to go the side of Deadlock Deepstate. And then you're just forced to play Yamato and Vindicta. Ivy was available, but again, the flexibility of the roster, we didn't know if Ivy would fit well. And man, it's looking grim, I will say. The draft diff definitely seems to be heavy in favor of Deadlock Deepstate, but they've got something to prove. So now the pressure is on them, right, to do it again. I think they shocked a lot of people when they beat Mahjong and Krill in the upper bracket. Now they have.
I mean, ultimately, we make big exclaims about this draft, but it does come down to the general skill set of what we see come out of these players in this early game. Mahjong and Krill do have one of the most aggressive, close-range exterior combos to work with going into fights. It's just one that usually capitalizes on a smaller fight, one where they have to find the effective picks to balloon these leads to get to a point where then when they do enter into the 6v6, they are in a confident place where their damage is just at a potential that is so much greater than Deepstate Deadlock that their effective wombo isn't really catching them off guard here, because at the end of the day, we get to that mid and late game, it is going to activate at a certain point, and it is going to be so difficult for them to match up there in the range or in the locations in these fights how they want to, getting in deep with things like, of course, the Yamato, of course, with the Abrams, deep in the backline trying to work something out with the Viscous. These are problems in store here, especially when we talk about their extended range damage. The Paradox and Vindicta are at a state right now where the single target tempo just isn't quite enough to outpace things like that Haze, like that Infernus, who have shown so much pressure, and previously, notably, especially with Orchid on this Haze, we're in such a place for Deepstate Deadlock coming into their wins against Mahjong and Krill, literally the matches we saw earlier today where they delivered two dominant fixtures. It was some of our closest games of the day just due to the timing and all that, but ultimately it was things like the draft that pushed Deepstate into the lead.
Yep, it sounds like our game is ready. We should be jumping in here shortly. The grand finals here between Deadlock Deepstate, your Amber Hand, and Mahjong and Krill, your Sapphire Flame. We head out to the Cursed Apple Zephyr, and this is where we get to see them put it all on the line. The prize pool looking pretty darn good for both of these teams at this point.
The line share of $3.5 thousand here, and more importantly to me, the accolade of coming out on top of one of the biggest tournaments in the early phases, the yonder days of competitive Deadlock.
Viscous alone for a second in this lane. Look at Mo and Krill's getting super deep for just a second, and now maybe they're looking to get something done. Okay, Mo and Krill on the wrong side of the lane here in York, and I think Vindicta was trying to find a way to punish that. Maybe an early stake start there to keep
Maurice
and Krillian in play, but it just means solo lane. So nothing early. I thought we were going to get a little bit of a scrap, but things settled. We go back the way we came. Now, the Vindicta, all eyes are on you, buddy. You got to get going early. We can't see a Vindicta get behind. Those Assassinates need to be just that as we get into that mid and late game.
Supported this time around in a official duo lane, of course, alongside Sharky. Notably, I want to point this out. Rocker was on that Viscus in previous iterations. Now back over to Sharky here. Some other big change-ups. Sandwich, who was playing at least in the matchups earlier on things like that Abram, that's popped over on the other side to Rocker here. So some big flexibility on the draft phase for Mahjong and Krill to make this happen. And for, well, the remnants of DMB, he's got to get out of there. PRD as well. These two.
Oh, no. Not the acronym name, not the acronym lane. DMB, PRD laning together. Our worst nightmare here. And look at this. Speaking of Samch, talked about him on the Paradox, going deep inside, and DMB will eventually go down. Hydration there to collect, and this time the Lash is getting an early start.
And you don't have the sustain of your opposing laner to hold this wave effectively. PRD has to play this so far back to give guarantees over here, and that's early damage on a Guardian that you don't need to have. This is pressure that will evolve over the course of these next 3 minutes that you're just letting bleed a bit too early.
Yeah, and PRD has not opted into leaving just yet. That's great damage, though. Frost Grenade comes down on top. DMB going to push forward and try and get some afterburn stacks onto Samson. They've done enough to force them away for now, but that Kelvin's still low, still in lane, now starting to slowly heal up here. Mo and Krill getting aggressive. Hawk needs to try and dash away. Beautiful wall there, and Quig says nowhere to go as down goes Hawk.
It was Quig, time in, time out on this Deepstate Deadlock roster, playing around that spectral wall that has made the McGinnis such a discussion coming into the ending of today here. Now, in prime position to once again, not only take advantage of the solo pick, but make these effective rotations as early as post 3 minutes before we even see ultimates come online. That is such an advantage playing off of just the inherent strengths and abilities of this hero.
Yeah, and our acronyms are right back to it, right? Fighting underneath their Guardian, but not afraid to push forward. Samch starting to hit those bursts, though, and is going to chip away. I would imagine we see a healing right for, if not both, one of those players on the side of Deadlock, Deepstate. Twig, I mean, hey, McGuinness? I don't know. McGuinness? What was the win rate coming into this one? I mean, so big, and I love that there was going to be, I think, a little bit of priority, a little bit of contention on the McGinnis in this game. And they take it so early because of how good Quig was on it in this matchup previously. So maybe a bit of PTSD from Mahjong and Krill. We'll see if they can find ways to punish. The splatter will do a bit of damage, but Medicinal Spectre, Idorian's here on the Dynamo. This is a very healthy lane.
Yeah. Ito taking kind of the backseat there to play on this Dynamo after taking away what could have been a strong pick for Mahjong and Krill. It was something that we highlighted in our discussions privately as a potential opportunity. But once again, it goes back to things like that flexibility and what the lanes can do. Already Mahjong and Krill making for such a big swap to have this effectively play out. A couple puddle punches there. I do want to highlight that, yes, over a 60% plus win rate in this tournament we have.
Yep. McGuinness, baby. Bebop also there, but not with us here. As PRD gets aggressive, Frost Grenade looking to slow things down. Here comes Quig again with the gank. The wall goes up. There's a bit of safety to be had. They have to push through the time wall, and they don't care. Samch goes down. Hydration should follow, trying to sneak away as he exchanges damage back and forth. The heavy barrage is on, but it wasn't enough to find the kill just yet.
Really, really good access there. Probably forced to walk away even after the one. Meanwhile, on the backside, Lefa happy to find one of the first returns for Mahjong and Krill from a distance away. A combo keeping M&K completely locked down is the prime situation for any assassinate. I do want to point out a little bit of itemization there that was absolutely crucial in that last fight. The Health Nova here on the side of Quig gave the safety back over and away to DMB, who was almost eliminated in that fight after we saw a small return back into it from Hydration. So huge, huge there.
Big in the support, and I've also wanted to, not only is Quig ganking lanes very successfully, but has been doing a great job conditioning in their own lane, throwing out walls and kind of forcing a panic for the Vindicta, for hydration on the Lash and then not doing anything with it. But one of these times, that wall is going to have something behind it. We'll see if Woohoo's got something behind this one here. Disarm onto Hawk, so that'll buy some time. Vindicta just around the corner, though. The Assassinate will not land for the Execute. It's just a bit of damage, and how much deeper do they want to go? Woohoo safe for now as he peeks through the veil, and he does not spot enemies on the other side.
Extending there on the other angle, we are also seeing further ganks towards Park Avenue as well. Both sides of Deadlock Deepstate are pushing power here, or at least to get involved. Guardians will fall on the other side for now. Out, back, and away, and run from that.
Yeah, big pickup there. Help from Sam over towards Rocker to try and punish that Haze lane. What that's going to do, though, it's going to allow Orchid to just have the pressure come towards them, farm up safely. And we are just at that 7-minute mark, so camps are starting to come online as well. So the map really opening up. If anybody's behind in Souls, now's the time to get back into the game.
Farm potential, we'll see exactly how these waves are treated, especially with that Guardian opening up just a little bit for Mahjong and Krill. You do start to see Rocker make these exchanges out towards the side in preparation for not only, yes, accumulating some of that 7-minute farm lead, but also having the opportunity to get involved over here on Broadway.
Yeah, beautiful swap through the time wall. PRD forced to use
the
Frozen Throne, but this is not where you want to be. Rocker says, you're locked in here with me, buddy, as the Ice Path will get him away to safety for now. Seismic Impact looking for a target. The Infernus going to light up the ground, so the dot damage is there, but what more can DMB do? Wall goes up, so Quig going to break things off here, and Rocker now stuck in a bad spot as that heavy barrage comes through. It's canceled out to safety. Quig will go. The dust settles, and all's good.
It's a remarkable recovery, notably from Deadlock Deepstate. Should have been picked off there like we highlight. Now, on the other side of things, though, with so much of that forced rotate from the Deepstate, Mahjong and Krill are more than happy over here on the side. Hawk, Hydration, taking away a Guardian with the advantage of that pressure over on, notably,
forward to take those tier 2 Denizen camps, and then thought, okay, this is our go button. We should look for a fight. Speaking of, Dynamo in the lane here, Adorian has the Singularity online. Uh-oh, Lash on the backside, though, throwing targets deep into the mix here. Looks to go for some more. Flog damage is good. Ground Slam doesn't find a whole lot, and Singularity gets absolutely nothing erased. As Dorian, as now this Guardian may be under fire. Quig able to help this Guardian survive for just a bit longer, but can you say the same for the McGinnis? Yes,
looking really good there. Finally, Guardian picked up in response. Edo might be back in it, but this is a phenomenal pressuring again from Mahjong and Krill. They were invested heavily out there towards Broadway and finally get to take advantage of that Guardian. Now in response, Deadlock Deepstate, they've been on this Mo and Krill all day long trying to get an advantage kickstarted off here. Hawk has been so pressuring out here towards the York Avenue side, and I mean, now they are finally responding to that switch up there. Doesn't look like it will lead into a kill, but it's something that we'll have to see Deadlock Deepstate continue to manage because these sideway pressurings have continued to evolve here for them as they keep this up.
In the wall, just threatening maybe something. Wall in the inverse, that time wall out from Samch. We are 5 seconds away, Zephyr, from the map really unlocking, right? Urn comes down, buffs come down, mid-boss starts to spawn. Our vending machines are available. We'll see if anybody looks to fight here for the buffs for now. Assassinate finds good damage onto DMB, and I don't hate it from Leffa, right? Because of the changes, right? Assassinate does so much damage in way of spirit damage. Just get it out there, right? You don't have to find the executes. Just get damage for your team. That's going to be the role here for Leffa on this Vindicta, as those buffs have been secured, and it looks like for M&K, maybe their Urn is next as one of their Guardians goes down.
They've got really good defensive positioning for Deadlock Deepstate. On the other side for Urn, we'll say retrieval there. For the pickup, though, Mahjong and Krill, yes, are finally going to get this kick started off. Sandwich already making the move. They're going to have to play this one further back. Notably, no one has made the exchange over on Park Avenue to really play for wave pressure, and you have to be respectful. Now you're starting to see that final rotation. 3 members there. Sandwich coming up from the back line in moments ahead. Actually getting involved.
Yeah, great swap again. Quig now in a tough spot, stuck on the other side. His own wall kept them from safety, and that was a fumble on the earn. I'm going to go ahead and set this down while I take care of business. Sam, huge with that kill.
Might have been a fumble if they had taken it away there, but ultimately it doesn't even seem like we're playing football. When it comes down to it, the earn in full security, and the fact that they put Sharky, Hydration, and Rocker over to the side to make sure that we've got Park Avenue in complete control just means it is a happy delivery for Mahjong and Krill. This is something I like to see from them because in what was our upper bracket finals originally, the earn was such a point of, well, I would actually say non-contention. They just were never able to really get involved with it.
Yeah, it really allowed any lead. I guess any even game was always a lead for Deadlock Deepstate because of that objective. That earn was so huge, and they adapted that strategy going into that lower finals as DMB unfortunately adapts another death here for Deadlock Deepstate. That's not a strategy that you want to have, and we'll see if anybody else follows suit here as PRD now headed for the hills. They got a little too aggressive there, pushing deep on that York side, Uptown Walker, and they get caught on the way out. Can Woohoo escape, though? Another catch would hurt the bank. They feel pretty darn good for M&K, and yeah, well, Mo and Krill is just not having a good time this whole tournament.
Double knock up there, found with the kinetic pulse, but ultimately no follow-up, no through, and it just means expansion on the utility. End of the day, though, I want to point out how great they've been at pushing the metal there. Now, though, Leffa caught out, slowed to an absolute halt, and now dropped down. It's a big return, at least for Deadlock Deepstate, picking up one, but they still have to respond to the push.
Wow, and going deep there. Good juke from DMB, and now they've got Hawk trapped here inside the frozen shelter. 3 players just on the outside as well, though, as Mahjong and Krill look to find an answer. Orchid is finally in the mix, but there's just no way in. Unfortunately, DMB goes down after cooking Hawk. They'll see if they can get some more. Hydration on the outside. Woo! Huge singularity here. How much more do they have? It's a bullet dance, and it's only damage for now. As Rocker goes down, huge time swap. Orchid trying to survive with 100, make it 65 now. 0 HP means the haze will fall. And just on the outside of the Walker here, downtown Greenwich, things are getting dicey.
Especially with such a good setup from Ito there with that singularity. You think it is all said and done. That's the wombo with this composition that we were ultimately looking for, but especially sending out DMB early on this Infernus. You've lost major damage potential going into a fight with that combination. You aren't able to bring them down past what is already the half you've sustained, and as a result, they're more than happy to recover. You're sending yourself deep into the paint where this comp thrives. We had worries going out of the draft, knowing for a fact that with Mahjong and Krill's comp, they're going to get directly into the action. If you are not ahead, like I said with that damage profile, you are absolutely screwed. Instead, the early game has been phenomenal from this team. Coming out compared to what was upper bracket finals, it feels like we are a breath of air. And now, going into these fights, they have so much more flexibility. It still does, you got to put pressure on this game. There's not a complete end zone that you are at yet here. The more time extends, the more Deadlock Deepstate has the opportunity to make a return, especially with this composition. But this is probably the best start you could have wished for coming out of the early game.
Absolutely. It turns this semi-difficult composition to work into, hey, everything's pretty doable at this point. And I want to talk about the Dynamo pick for Deadlock Deepstate. I thought that would be a huge pickup for M&K if they grabbed it during the draft, but they didn't. So now Dorian is rocking the Dynamo, and that to me screams a composition that immediately gets hard to play, right? You've got a bunch of sustained damage. You have so much damage. You have your engage, but if you start to put too much thought into, can we hit a perfect singularity, things are going to go sideways. Now, the haze is not online yet, right? Should we see a bit more damage in the haze, more people die in that fight on the side of M&K. So we still have to wait to see if and when Deadlock Deepstate can come online. But just as I say that, it's getting a lot harder to do so.
Do remember it was a heavy lead for Deepstate Deadlock that put Orchid in such a good place on this haze. They were taking advantage of they had complete farm control, and it was far and away a haze from above the action, ahead of the soul count. This is one where we're going to have to see the haze play from behind, notably, and what that ultimately means for me is, even though it's a quick turnaround in the mid game for a head to be found from this haze, if it does not start soon, especially with changes to gun damage and getting ahead with that as a whole, I mean, the haze doesn't provide much access, or at least as much as we saw in the upper bracket finals.
And right in the face of Uptown Park, excuse me. Walker goes down. One still stands, which means flex spots are still escaping Deadlock Deepstate, as DMB will take this farm on the way out. A few camps on the map here. We'll see where they go in terms of direction. Toxic bullets online here. That kinetic dash taking this Infernus nice and slippery. And I think when it comes to these team fights too for Infernus, all eyes on that concussive combustion. That's the world's hardest ult to say. But you kind of have to be perfect with that, because if you're not, you put yourself in a really bad spot. You are the carry, but you have to be on top of the enemy to get that stun off. That's a heavy a heavy burden to bear.
Sure. Now remember, we are pulling this one back, especially with the reset on, of course, the camps. It will be a moment of breath for the likes of Deadlock Deepstate, and that's kind of good. Remember, it's time that they're looking to extend on the clock here to push themselves back into the potential for these team fights to have more of the drop-dead wombo that we were looking for in the early draft. It's something they're going to have to catch up back with, and Quig getting caught out, especially forced with Spectral Wall early there, is not the place you want to be in. Playing for recovery, the rest of Mahjong or Krill are more than happy to show up.
I thought maybe snuck out for a second, but does eventually get caught. Yeah, that right there hurts. And it wasn't just Quig, right? It was DMB on the opposite side of the map as well. Two huge pickups there in a game where you can't afford to give an inch, because Mahjong and Krill already have a mile.
They're more than happy to play around the pick potential, too. This is a comp that excels on those lower numbers, like I was saying in draft, right? If you're taking advantage of the smaller fights, playing the advantage there, especially now with minor leads like this, you are absolutely excelling. Finally, though, Deep jumps in from Ido. Where's the damage follow-through?
Yeah, there's nothing behind it. Singularity goes through, and then everybody says, okay, that's fine. And now Mo is being used here. Woohoo gonna get topped off. PRD there to play Doctor, but a second too late. And Adorian, again, when you have the Singularity, it gets so easy to want to force things when they look good, but nobody was there to respond for Deadlock Deepstate.
This is such a huge issue there, and now with that final Walker down, we've unlocked that third flex slot as a place of just potential discussion, power in the hands of just how dominant Mahjong and Krill have been coming into this game. Like I said, it was going to be hard, but it has been perfection after perfection, capitalizing on so many of the sole purpose mistakes that we've seen from the Deepstate again and again. Pickups like Ido, getting caught out like Quig. These are issues that you cannot be having when your team excels at the fight prowess together here. Now it is an uphill battle. They will have to delay to get back into this game, because Tanner, we're already sitting at a 36k soul advantage in multiple strains of AP between the urns and the objectives themselves.
And M&K are staying so active around the map. We're 20 seconds away from another urn. I guess 20 seconds from a spawn, another 25 seconds from it being available. You have to assume M&K are going to be on that timer quick, right? 10 more seconds till these buffs come online, and who's going to step forward for Deadlock Deepstate? Fortunately, now they've got their flex slots online. Quig, a huge wall, but it doesn't matter. Just going to get run down again. The McGinnis,
wow,
is not the McGuinness. This time around, it does not seem.
We sold it too much. It's our problem. The curse is alive and real. Not quite the curse we'll see just yet on some of our rosters here, but enough to really point out the flaws of this character. The single pickup alone is a flaw for any potential hero in the game here, but especially now, no longer being the driver's seat. The setup for the chase that you usually look to ensue with, of course, that McGinnis on your side, you're not looking for pick potential against this team right now. You just don't have the opportunity. They're doing such a good job because they're in a power position just playing as 3. They don't have to walk the map as a full 6 here.
And look how nicely they set up, too, for this urn. if there's going to be any contention, it's going to be met by 4 players, 5 once Samch gets this one slammed home. So, 100-yard dash across the field we go into the end zone. The urn will find its home, and the soul lead will continue to grow forward. We're just around the corner from a 50,000 soul lead. That's a lot of souls.
That is, I mean, to say the least, split upon the 6 there, 8,000 on average sustained, not directly, but just the average potential on every single hero you're up against there. We're talking about the extension of at least 1 potential major item, or 2 to 4 when we talk about the other slights there. I mean, that's not latent power, that's just direct power.
Yeah, and there's been so much healing available for Deadlock Deepstate, and M&K are building into it perfectly, right? You've got your toxic bullets online, you've got your life bane or heal bane online, so they're making sure that nobody's surviving just barely in any of these fights. That Kelvin Frost Grenade, that rejuvenating Aurora, it's not going to be the strength that it once was early in this game. So things continue to look grim as they stand stalwart in their base, that being Deadlock Deepstate. Quig gonna get that lane pushed out. Park now pushing in the opposite direction. Could maybe get some damage dealt on that Walker, but what do you do, right? Where do you feel safe? It feels like in front of your Twin Guardians is the only safe spot for Deadlock Deepstate right now.
And yeah, the entire time you've completely left the map in control of Mahjong and Krill. Every single denizen, every single camp, all of it is for free when we talk about Mahjong and Krill. They're picking up the wealth that could be your return to this game. It is literally just singularly playing around wave for wave for wave. And more importantly, what farm they do manage to pick up, it has to be delegated. It has to be put on the right target in preparation for the appropriate item, or else no one's getting into a power position. Who do you put all of your marbles into?
Yeah, where do your marbles go? Vindicta, this is one of those situations where I thought, this is what Deadlock Deepstate need to find. This is not what they need to find. This is an awful spot for Woohoo, and this is exactly why the Mo and Krill is having such a bad time. Caught out there, and now maybe Quig, maybe finding a return kill out towards York. Left side of the map, 3 players are working this way. Deadlock Deepstate might find a kill in response. No, instead, Lefa actually picks one up in the 1v3 and wants some more. Meanwhile, the base is getting erased. Assassinate is online. Out comes the Frozen Shelter. That'll slow things down for a second. It's 2 huge ultimates used. Now you don't have them to defend your base, and it's been cracked wide open.
Patron, but seconds away from deletion, left to some of your most powerful picks, but ultimately, I don't think they ended here. They know they've got the cooldowns. Just go for Rejuvenator. Set yourself up for an even more dominant return in the next few minutes, because ultimately, you can absolutely blow through this objective. And, I mean, you pray for a really, really good setup here when it comes to the Frozen Shelter, but that's it.
Yeah. And I had thought the Frozen Shelter got expended in that kill over Lefa. Fortunately, they hung on to it.
Here they
come.
come.
Just an icy Frost Grenade. And yeah, now they're looking for the steal anyway, anyhow. There's the Frozen Shelter. Buy yourself some time. Who's going to find the Rejuvenator, though? Deadlock Deepstate already down 1. Vindicta not in the fight just yet as Kelvin dies. Rejuvenator stolen away. No, secured, by Mahjong and Krill, and now the fight seems to go their way. Look at the health bars. They're just so healthy, but as I say it, Rocker goes down. Quig finally getting online, and Yamato finding kills on the way out. Quig got 1, but it's going to be in exchange for their life as Hawk is on the chase, and this goes.
It's just, in the end, is so dominantly ahead here for Mahjong and Krill in the entire heat of that action, from major singularities from Ito, from the absolute pressure of one of the deepest Frozen Shelters. Nothing is able to come out on top. You only lose Rocker, and the rest of the in Krill roster are more than happy here, Tanner, to take away this first game.
That they are. Mahjong and Krill torch Deadlock Deepstate in their amber hand by the Sapphire Flame.
Much again, Team Liquid, for making this a possibility. Your hoodies are very nice. I got this one at TwitchCon. It was awesome. And of course, Coinbase, thank you for helping this become a reality as well. But in order for us to make the game itself a reality and the stories to be told, we need our casters to do it. Zephyr, Tanner, how's it going to end?
We are right in the middle of our story, and I was reading it to you, Zephyr, page by page, word by word, very softly. It was a little bit of ASMR before all of that happened, but now we get to get excited, right? Game 2 just around the corner. Story time is over as Mahjong and Krill, hey, they look all right. They look all right from Game 1.
Yes, I do want to point out going into this draft, though, we feel like we're in a very similar situation. There is a little bit more team play in terms of what they can do going into these mid to late game fights. But it is really nice for Deepstate Deadlock. Things like that Wraith Haze, yep. Right? The double up there. Ito potentially back on the Para, right? The Abrams, which has looked phenomenal for supportive engage, and a Bebop with exterior damage. I mean, it seems like they're set up with the potential Oyster ahead of them coming into Game 2. But it was the same discussion we had in Game 1, and we got ahead of ourselves saying, well, this is going to be an uphill battle. Mahjong and Krill, they're screwed. But ultimately, they really took advantage of what strong suits they were able to build within the roster, leading into a dominant start to our grand finals. So now at this point, I'm hoping, this is my only thing, I'm hoping for Deepstate Deadlock. They have a great scaling comp. They have great potential. Mid to late game should be dominant for them. We just need to cut off the bleeding. Early game, we can't be taking individual on Yamato and so many others.
Yeah, I mean, that was my question coming in. You have the Haze again. How does that work this time around, right? Last time it was a solo lane against Rocker on the Abrams, and it just, Abrams does Abrams things, man. It's hard to lane against, really easy. I think Abrams is the only hero that can shoot in the middle of reloading because he just reloads one at a time. And it's just hard to lane against an Abrams. Is there something hilarious? What's happening?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
You know, I should do less reading while I'm on cast.
Okay.
Either way, I agree. There is the potential engage there, and the Abrams has looked good and has made quite a big leaps. We've seen it more in the hands of Mahjong and Krill, notably in what was a lot of setup for them, especially between what was winter finals as well as going into this. But in Deepstate, they're still picking up strong picks, and anyone's been more than flexible when it comes to our competitive scene.
Yep, and it sounds like our game is ready for Mahjong and Krill. They see the light at the end of the tunnel. Deadlock, Deepstate, they're just trying to hang on, see if we can get to a Game 3. So here we go, out to the cursed apple. Mahjong and Krill, your Amber Hand. Deadlock, Deepstate, your Sapphire Flame. And the Haze is out on a solo lane once again, Zephyr.
Now remember, this is something that we see balloon over time that looks very, very good if we can just get to that point. Nerfs towards things like the gun damage after these recent patches have made the Haze a less stable option as what was expounded on in that Game 1. So it is truly up to Deadlock. Deepstate, apparently. Hey, guys. What's up?
Welcome to the game. You got a Viscous Dynamo lane, and you are not having fun. Bebop has avoided us the last couple of games, and PRD has shown us why we should pick it up. Early pressure there sends that Viscous back to the base. Not only back to base, as Sam gets punished pretty heavily by the cards there, by the frozen grenade, but, I mean, the Souls looking a little dire for that Viscous, who's just now getting back to lane.
It's early. You know what? That is the saving grace to this exchange here. It is early. I want to point out a little bit of what we've seen from the shakeup regarding where everyone has ended up. Hydration does end up back on that Ivy after an excellent playthrough earlier today. Notably, that does shift Sandwich over to the Lash, and more importantly, Leffa. After what was Hawk being so impressive just this last game on that Yamato, it is instead going to be Leffa.
So flexibility all around. I do think there was some pretty good Lash play coming out from Sam previously, just finding ways to survive. Really strong death slams in dire situations. Woohoo. No longer on the, I don't know, 11% win rate, Mo and Krill. It's been so sad this tournament, but now on the Abrams, we'll have a bit more pushing pressure. Again, a lot of denial. The Abrams, very strong with this shotgun, and to be able to try and deny some of these souls, but pushing up way too deep, and Hydration is so happy to punish.
Well, early off on the board. Remember, I'm looking for a delay of game when it comes to Deadlock Deepstate, and so far they've done well enough as is. Of course, for Woohoo, got to take a step back there. Ito getting involved. This is something we saw seconds ago lead to early sustainment and potentially more. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, that's it for Quig. Might not be on the likes of our McGinnis, but still facing difficulties all the same.
And push back is Samch once more. Hawk trying to start that conditioning with the wall as well. Woohoo forced all the way back to the Guardian. Hydration trying to find ways to get into the mix here. Ivy has such a big magazine, and we know that the damage is going to come from Hydration's Ivy, and it looks like it might start early in this one. As Woohoo survives for now, will dance around the wall just in front of their Guardian. And things have kind of started. We had an early kill. Things get a little goofy early, but nobody getting too far out of bounds just yet.
At least for now, deep in Woohoo with a response against the wall there. Almost sending Hydration to their grave. Have to respect the early Garden. Even as low as you get that, but it's never good to see it. Rocker, meanwhile, a quick hook in return there. Double with the bomb. Pressure upon pressure. Start that one off.
Yeah, in this Bebop lane, happy to just let you push into them. That puts you in a position where you can get hooked into that Guardian, just as we saw. It didn't need the cube, but that's a pretty tough target to pull, right? You pull Rocker, he can cube himself. You pull his teammate, maybe Rocker's out of range of the cube, so we'll see how that target precedence changes, or if it does. We go out with the wall once more. Now caught on the wrong side, both players. As Samch goes in, ground slam, not finding too much. DMB actually going to go down, trying to sneak away, playing the ice path, but it wasn't enough to get safe.
Sadly, early, it doesn't really have the mobility to procure good, at least, speed there. So ultimately, it is now double deuces down for Quig, notably on this Kelvin. It's an early start that, although the souls are looking a bit better, will delay the access there. Once again, great hook, saved by the bell with the cube once more. Even still, this is the second time around we've continued to see this. BRD on the Bebop, making good.
Yeah, finding those pulls. Rocker was in range of the cube. Now what gets scary is 2,400 souls, 2,300 souls, right? That's the Viscous Dynamo lane. That Hyper Beam is online. So those pulls get a whole lot more dangerous if you don't have ways to sneak out, right? That Bebop ultimate. Speaking of Bebop, all right, another pull. Here comes the ultimate, and yeah, not going to be enough. Quantum Entanglement tried to get to safety, but you do not cover the ground that you needed to, so DMB happily picks up that one. Telekinesis now used. That's going to find the lift. Here comes Beams on the opposite side. No Hyper Beam, but an Arctic one instead. Samson now trying to answer in response, but a beautiful frozen shelter will keep the Kelvin alive for now. That ult will fall. PRD back at it again. Bombs galore and Bebop popping off. It's DMB to collect, but Bebop, our hero in this lane.
Absolutely impeccable from starting off with the initial hooks to give access to that early drop there against the likes of Sharky, then into further what felt like monkey in the middle, playing with the likes of the body of Samch there. Absolute perfection for the setup, and now once again continue to access. Meanwhile, on the other side of things though, Mahjong and Krill finally making good work with at least some of that early. I almost thought they were going to get that Guardian, but forced to pull away just moments ahead. Should get it off of this push.
Yeah, no problems here. Should be able to find that one. Minions maybe close it out, and they will do just that. On the opposite side of the map as well, York and Park have both been cracked open. The Guardians are down, so that's forced Orchid back again on this haze to just try and play safe, farm up. That's the name of the game. Fortunately, this time around, right, 6 minutes, 30 seconds into the game, we haven't seen too much pressure on the haze, which that spells good things for Deadlock Deepstate.
Well, other side, once again, Samch here pressured out and away. Major moves across the map from Rocker to get involved, finding the double knock back with the ball. I don't think this is going to be much of a real big setup here, but instead, enough to give them pressure back instead. Telekinesis, a lift ahead, a cube away, keeping this one healthy as finally we've got the Singularity coming in from downtown to finally secure the fight.
just on the edge of the singularity, and they're good for it. They finally make good on the kill there. That's that Dynamo just not forcing anything, but instead making sure that ultimate is just able to help top off the kills there. DMB may be forcing a little too much here. The cards are good, but how good are they? Quig is here to try and supplement some extra damage, and oh my god, they survive!
Just barely off a click of health there. Hawk on the other side of things getting revenge, and we continue to light up the action. Another cube stuck within the frozen shelter. Time getting colder as a Deadlock is as cold as it gets here to lay yourself to rest.
Wow. Dorian showed up at the perfect time to help out in that fight. You saw DMB getting a little crazy. I thought he was dead for sure. Instead, just baiting, trying to keep the attention of Mahjong and Krill while Idorian came on over on that Paradox and made that possible. Now, Hydration trying to show us where all of this damage comes from. That's a nice assist out onto Quig. The bomb is on, but the Stone Form doesn't stop the damage, but it keeps anybody from wanting to push forward. Meanwhile, I talked about Idorian. He hangs out for a little too long, and he's been punished. The Samps will find that elimination.
Meanwhile, good flex, good rotations. We've seen this again, what initially started in York, now making its way over to Greenwich. We're playing around pressure of Hawk on this McGinnis. Not just, of course, the sustain with the gun and just that power potential, but the Spectral Wall really delaying the action from these minions.
Yeah, Hydration. Taking something on the way out, just pushing and getting that tier 2 Denizen camp away. Still early in this game, right? 9 minutes. Laning has since come to an end. Wall goes up. Let's see if Quig opts into respecting this one. No, they're just going to go right past the Guardian. Yeah, that's not where you want to be, Hawk. Unfortunately, caught in the wrong spot, thinking they could do way too much.
Rocker out and away, taking us there. Not the best access. Still the PRD and DMB getting involved. That's the power of the pressure of that roster. You have to be respectful. Speaking of Sam's, it's probably a little bit more respectful there, trying to play behind them, entering from below instead. Pull that one back, play for the Walker, let the team regroup here instead. It's a ticking time bomb waiting to happen. Hydration so far ahead of everybody.
Hydration showing real comfortability on this Ivy pick, and if Urns were ever a question, Ivy's a pretty darn good answer. Having that ult online, being able to make plays like that. DMB stacking up the cards here, trying to keep not only the waves at bay, but also just rack up their souls. A lot of pressure on the shoulders of DMB to be that consistent damage until Orchid can get there, because those cards eventually, they still do pretty good damage, but those left clicks, Orchid's got to be that haze that we all run into in our games. Not the one on our team, but the ones that we run into. Unless you're a haze player, then I'm not flaming you because, you know, haze players.
All right, calm down. Calm down. There's no reason to get feisty in chat. All right. We'll see what is able to play around it. Optimally, it has looked better thus far, though. Hands of Mahjong in Krill. Still looking for them to continue to build that lead. Want to shout out Hydration, though. 10K up, Souls in the driver's seat there. Could be good. Meanwhile, Earn to be contested. That's that Hydration. That's that seismic slam. Down and away. Woohoo's going to be caught out nonetheless.
Yeah, came down for the slam, but immediately gets shoulder bombed out from Lefa. Now look for some more singularity. Through the time wall they go, but it's DMB to collect another one. Sharky falls. This Hydration on the opposite side is picking up a Walker, so they're playing for the objectives. While Deadlock Deepstate tries to fight for these kills and this Urn atop the frozen shelter as the cars come out. DMB says, you know how long I've been waiting for this?
I'm about to make a name for myself there.
I'm about to make a name for myself.
We'll see what they can do. Playing around the infinite ammo slide, trying to get the turret where there is pressure to be found here. This is a return that would maybe alleviate some of the pressure we've seen against the Deadlock Deepstate, especially now with minions pushing. This would get them at least even on the onus, especially with them about to secure the likes of the Urn on the other side towards York Avenue. That would be a good setup for potentially that last and final Guardian as well. So I like the exchange over there. You can also pop on over, teleporter available, and just make your way across.
Yeah, forced to drop the Urn, though, is the fight now going to happen on the opposite side. It happened at the pickup, now it's happened at the drop-off. The parents are getting crazy here as Samp goes in. Big ground slam Gonna find the knock-up or ground strike, excuse me, is PRD just trying to put the damage right back in the fight. Bomb is on. Samch will bring it into his team. And that urn, it has been secured. Rocker will fall, Samch will follow, and sure, you can have the urn. We'll take the kills on the backside as Idorian hops up to play the high ground. Now leaps into the team. Stoneform comes down. That's going to buy some time for hydration, but how much more can they buy for themselves? They're forced to leave the heal. The rescue beam to safety will keep them alive for moments longer, but you're so far away from any moment of respite here as Ivy in Hawk just around the corner. Beautiful paradoxical swap from the skies from Midorian, but he doesn't die. Hydration still surviving for a moment longer. So is Hawk. The wall is up. The team is split off. The chase is on. Hawk is fighting. The fisticuffs are going. And Mahjong and Krill turn it around.
Extending the fight far too long here off of the reset of cooldowns means that's all said and done, and we'll tack it up once more with Sandwich finding Woohoo pedaled against the wall there. I mean, it was excellent earlier takes, pressuring them off of earned potential leads into a massive bleed, and so much of that fight extended for periods upon periods upon periods. Hydration barely left standing before finally the remnants of this team are able to pull themselves back together piece by piece there. In the end, it does cost the Guardian, but I mean, it is a massive wash.
From start to finish on that urn, 2 fights go back and forth. Deadlock, Deepstate, they get a little bit of breathing room on that urn. They lose some of their objectives. Then they go to score the urn, and it goes the opposite direction. But that keeps this game so incredibly close that for 3,000, make it 2,000 souls separate these. And Rocker in trouble again. Beautiful timing on that wall. It's so easy to cut off your teammates, but able to make sure that Rocker does get out to safety with that spectral wall.
Now remember, when I discussed this earlier in the game, we talk about stemming the flow of the soul, the pickups and the objectives spread across the board here in favor of getting Deadlock Deepstate online. And while that last fight was questionable in its own rights with terms of how they survived out of it, the soul lead and the soul potential is still so much more equivalent compared to what we were dealing with coming out of game 1 of our grand finals. Ultimately, what that means is this kind of composition is still in the position to grow and become a problem here if we don't see Mahjong continue to take advantage. This time around, I mean, yeah.
Just around the corner here, 15-minute mark. Looks like they want to try and fight this one. On the left side of the map, survival buff will be picked up. Quantum entanglement out to safety. Sam trying to get aggressive here. Death slam, but a beautiful frozen shelter suspends them in the sky. And Alsham put in such a tough spot here. Will survives. The beam comes through. Not dead yet, but the health bars are getting cut through. PRD here to help. 2 ults used to keep everybody alive.
That's utility down. That's pressure found, though. Ultimately, though, it's just going to be another reawakening for this team to set themselves up, earn sustained. Mahjong and Krill now in that setup there, and with a great lead over towards York Avenue, should be able to deliver this one, albeit a bit more confidently than what we saw last time around, already setting themselves up in a really nice position, especially with separation over towards the exterior side with Ito and Orchid nowhere close.
Yeah, 4 out of 5 ultimates on cooldown right now. That hook just narrowly missing hydration. That would have been a great target to have picked up there, but 4 out of 5 or 4 out of 6, excuse me, ultimates on cooldown means you just can't fight for this urn, right? There's no team fight potential there. That one's secured. I do want to point out, however, hold on, wait a second, Hawk. Woo! Out here on the airdrop, looking to go bombing, maybe get some high ground there. Twig staying away from it. They want to take this fight. Wraith's out of position too.
Well, ultimately, big separation might be what gives a boon to them. Whoa, with the mix of the singularity, instant deletion for Quig here. Swap on the other angle, and with damage down, you've got a forced recovery. Orchid's going to try to sustain alone on the side of Park Avenue, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to point out. Orchid has been left alone, has been farming successfully, but at what point do we say, all right, Hayes, it's time to fight? Because
that's Walker.
Yeah, the Walker goes. It's AP for the team, but you're losing everything. You're going to lose a Walker on the opposite side. Deaths are also happening here. Samch, a step forward.
They got a return on them at a lower numbers cost for player rate. They're dominantly defending this from big investment on the other side. Frozen Shelter from the other end, getting involved deep here. A stone form down for a bit of stunning potential. A wall lay the shots ahead, but still found in the end is Ito unable to escape. Mind you, Orchid is here, now involved.
Yeah, Orchid here. Hawk also, excuse me, not Hawk. Leffa also coming back from the base now. Maybe, no, not actually coming to the fight. Instead, just looking to pick up the wave that Orchid had. The response from Deadlock Deepstate. It doesn't look like they want to fight without Eidorian.
No, down there, and especially trying to build up a bit of health back on Orchid, especially with what is a small push on both York and Greenwich in both regards. You kind of need to at least get those waves back into a manageable state before you can make, well, any kind of response here. Still, though, huge shout out to Orchid. Big pickup on the side wave to take advantage of the minor pressure. And for the moment, until Ito had went down, and the Walker, I mean, they were actually so balanced out in that exchange and we're actually coming out on top there. In the end, I feel like it's equalized a bit more, though.
And now 5K, 4K-ish. Separate these teams in way of souls. If we could maybe hit the scoreboard here, see where we're at in terms of AP, because that urn has been contested, but I think Mahjong and Krill not only have more objectives cracked open for AP, but they've also got more urns secured, I'm pretty sure. Woohoo. Takes a bit of damage. Hydration just has to get out of there, but they are sending response. Mahjong and Krill send 3 out towards Park just in case Hydration got in trouble.
Back to a slow point here, just setting themselves up now after what was an aggressive start to some of those early takes on the fight over on side there now. Escalating exposure is found. Was his initial earlier today. Extremely aggressive, very problematic, and could continually be a problem in terms of the scale potential, but I'll wait and see there.
I'm wondering if there's something that I don't know about the vending machines, the Sinner's Sacrifice, because I feel like a lot of the time that's the only camp that's been left available. And maybe it just takes a little too much time to secure that one. It's one of those objectives where, you know, you want to feel safe about the game state, but there's still one up on the side of Deadlock Deepstate, and they haven't been going for it. And it's been about a minute now that people have been playing in the area. We see wall to try and secure here. PRD maybe looking to make a play on whoever grabs the buff, and it's movement now for Rocker. And Woohoo just in a bad spot. 3 players here to try and fight for this one. Frost Grenade will help heal up Ice Path out to safety, and although you didn't get the buff, you also didn't die.
Continue to stain this out. Earn in potential power position for the likes of Mahjong. This could potentially be second ahead here, especially with separation on the split. Orchid making the push there over towards Park could be these returns they want. Meanwhile, getting deeply involved here in the action. Leffa, you got to be careful. Already expending the ult there. That's for survivability instead. On your way home, take a ride. Play that slow.
And smart call, right? As responsive as MNK have been, they understand that that's now a losing fight, right? You have to use that Shadow Transformation just to stay alive. You're also a player down because you're running the urn. Let's just hope that Leffa gets out of there. We're not going to invest too much, and things did end up going well for them. We'll see if Leffa backs away, as he's still in the face of DMB, that Wraith, as they split that lane on Greenwich.
Time ahead here. Camp reset of the Denizens over western side off of York, off of the push. Should be a big boon for the Soul lead to pick up there. On the other angle, at least for the likes of Mahjong and Krill. Once again, though, remind folks the delay of this game continues to build up power potential. It was big leads that sustained from Orchid that led to the initial drop down to the lower bracket initially.
Hawk has to get out of dodge. Heroic Aura's on. Singularity onto Tuba. What is the response? The health bar's now starting to get chipped away as Woohoo put in a tough spot.
Where's the
Cube is
follow-up?
out to try and keep Sharky alive. Out comes the Frozen Shelter, trying to lock everybody on the inside. Bullet dances there, but nobody falls just yet. It's another Haze ultimate that gets absolutely nothing as Quig takes to the skies, and he's trying to leave. Unfortunately, not able to do so. PRD, the only one to stay alive for the squad, and it's not for much longer. Mid-boss now on the menu.
I'll tell you what, after seeing what was a beautiful singularity from last game, I was looking for the sustain. I wish we'd gotten to see the full spread of that fight. Someone's got to grab that rejuvenator. Yeah, that's you. Make your way back.
Do you ever take your first heavy swing at the rejuvenator? Maybe this is just a me thing. I take my first heavy swing at the rejuvenator. If I don't time it perfectly, in my head, I'm like, yeah, that was stolen. That could have gotten stolen. Like, man, it's just like keeping myself accountable. So Sharky, that could have gotten stolen, buddy. Nobody was alive, but so at the end of the day. And our observers just gave us the tab. Thank you for that. Now it's going to be a little bit higher, but I believe it was a 24 ability point lead in favor of Mahjong and Krill. So now what was a 5k soul lead has now become a 30k soul lead and a 24 ability point lead.
Yeah,
I mean, a rejuvenator lead.
I was about to say, the Rejuvenator, the big one there for what could be their next potential push over towards one of these lanes. At any given point, though, remember, 24, at least in the AP, is just a minor conversion divided by 6 out there to just the likelihood of, I mean, just a handful for AP. You're 4 of your abilities, or at least you're maxing out 1 or 2 that are dominantly in the hands for them there, and they're just ahead by just the one there in terms of latent power. At end of the day, though, it's more about the Rejuvenator, the team fight potential. We've got full resets coming up here. 68 seconds till Singularity, big on Sharky. That's the one I'll point out, because ultimately it's what puts Mahjong and Krill back in the driver's seat going into that fight. And while there is a lot of really, really good power potential for initiating in at least this composition, that was the one that did them a favor here. So just managing the waves and hopefully now extending the lead over towards some of this far from Deepstate.
Yeah, stuck inside their base once more. This is the same story that we saw in Game 1, where there's just nowhere safe enough. You see DMB and PRD working to try and get these minions pushed from uptown Greenwich. Well, the rest of M&K are making their way uptown Broadway, send the wall up. These Twin Guardians, I mean, these things are like paper, man. They do not stand for long.
Got to get that casual new tier 3 tower at some point. Either way, for now, it's going to be double full frontal tanking from Hawk there. And ultimately, the airdrop as well, sending this into the back line.
Yeah, I mean, where is Hawk going with this one? Echo Shard already used, back online, so double wall available for Hawk, and they're just looking to get right in on the shrine. Last flex spot opened up, but most importantly, this base being erased once more. 35 seconds on PRD. This Bebop is gone for a long time, and we'll see if M&K even look to reset after this effort.
This is insane. Patron available. Remember, with full Rejuvenator, they could potentially get aggressive, and there really isn't much to be lost from this as a whole. Major telekinesis out. That'll find lifts on almost everybody, but the follow-through just isn't there. Ito's down.
Ito's down. Bebop's still not back in the fight, so PRD is gone. That's going to force DMB back into the base, but inside the fountain, they get erased. And now the bullet dance, it just goes on the wrong side. And that is going to do it. Back with a vengeance. Patron will ride your champions of the Downtown Showdown.